Hello everyone, welcome back to lovely New England. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at how you can create escort missions for your very, very high value targets, such as AWACS units or, fuel refueling tankers and stuff like that. And of course, as we're exploring this, we're going to get an opportunity to explore some other things that sometimes come up when you're trying to develop these escorts in such a way that it makes most sense as far as not wasting missiles, not putting yourself in danger, not putting the high value targets in danger. And we're going to kind of go take a look at those one at a time. So what we've been done is we've been asked very, very nicely to come fly over here and kind of go to AWAC, come home. So this is kind of where our AWACs are supposed to be. So we're going to send them out there as well as get ourselves a little air fuel refueling kind of going on up there as well. And we know that the enemy's out there somewhere, and they're going to come try to attack our AWACs. And we have to detect them, of course. And naturally, we're also going to have to engage them. And unfortunately, to help us today, we have a bunch of F-15Cs. We have the nice ones. So we don't have an infinite supply, and there are plenty of enemy airplanes out there. So it'll be interesting for us to try to figure out. So the first thing I'm going to do is something that seems a little scandalous. I'm going to create a single waypoint. Now, when people think of doing AWACS tracks or refueling tracks, they always make a line like this. That is completely unnecessary, especially if you are doing a side-looking airborne radar. It's actually simpler to use a single point, because what'll happen now is my AWACS is going to fly out here, and he's going to just do air donuts, basically, until he's ready to come in for a landing sort of a thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go ahead and rename this chap Control R. I always forget which one it is. AWAC, stay here. Kind of a thing. We could also call it the anger point. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself a prosecution area. I'm going to go ahead and make it 70 miles wide, which is a pretty good size here. And the easiest way to do this, of course, is Control right click, add an area, and you just make it a box around that center point. All right, let's see here. Are you sure you want to divide it? Yes, I do. And it looks pretty good to me. I like that very nicely. Whoopsies, I always forget to grab that one. All right, let's see here. Happy weather. So we'll go ahead and take advantage of that as well. So let's go ahead and get our escorts all squared away first, and then we'll get our AWACS and all that. So our escorts here, of course, we're simply going to call, it's technically an HV cap, HAV cap, or half cap. I'm just going to call it HV cap. That's simple enough. Patrol AAW, press okie doke. That looks good to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define this region not as a patrol area, but as a prosecution area, I should say. I shouldn't say error. That's what comes later when I mess something up. But the key thing here is that this particular zone is where we're allowed to engage weapons. But in order to make this work, one of the things you have to do is you have to make sure investigate unknown contacts outside the patrol area is allowed. That way they stay in the prosecution area, but they stay at the patrol area. That's an important point. The next thing I'm going to do is shut off this one for weapon range. I don't want them to do that. The only reason you'd use this is if you don't want to define the prosecution zone and you want them just to attack things that are weapon range from this central point. I don't really want that. I want them to be able to kind of run around because wait to see what's coming at us today. Flight size I'm going to go with 2. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to order them to do 4 on station at a time. This way we always have a couple in case we have to target in both directions. Next thing we want to take a look at is number of aircraft to investigate unknown contacts. 1, engage hostile contacts. We're going to keep this to 1 flight. That seems a little scandalous here, but the reason we're doing that essentially is for the purposes of limiting how many directions we can run after the bad guys in, and you'll see what I mean when we get to that point. So I'm going to go to MCON, kind of a thing, and one of the things I'm going to change is I'm actually going to go over here, and if you look real carefully, we have our weapon state. Now, one of the mistakes we always make is we go ahead and say shotgun. So our missile fires 1 aim, 120, and then he turns around and flies home, completely wasting all of our effort and being basically useless. So the question is, do we want to do Winchester, which basically means keep firing missiles until you're out of missiles, or do we want to do shotgun, which is keep firing missiles until you're out of the expensive ones, so to speak. And it's kind of one of those things. Let me pull this to the side so you can take a little bit better look at this problem. Now, the problem is the defaults are down here, which is useless for us. They basically fire once and leave. We don't want that. We want them to go ahead and basically keep shooting. So for this one, there's this lovely thing here that says weapons have been expended. Allow easy targets of opportunity to deliver or strike weapons in air-to-air. Aha! The reason I like this one is we're not going to get dangerous. So we're not going to fly into close range with our AIM-9s. AIM-9s are great missiles, but guess what? The enemy's got stuff that's really good too. So we want to be very mindful of that. The next thing I'm going to do, and this is really scandalous, I'm actually going to allow my aircraft to leave a flight when they reach their weapon state. You're going, why would you do that? Again, think back to my logic here. If one guy fires off 6 of his AM-120s and is out, the entire flight, including any missiles still sitting on the rail, will leave, which is not so good for us. We need to be able to use that. One thing we want to do, too, is we'll Kank and Jag. We're going to be using a lot of AM-120s today. Now, the last thing I want to do with my guys is I want to go ahead and limit what they can do as far as firing. So I'm going to grab my F-15s, go ahead and dump them into the mission. Now I'm going to go to MCON, and I go to RA. You're going to notice here that I have the opportunity to define my properties. Excuse me. One of the things you'll notice here is with our contacts is how many missiles we're going to fire. One's fine. And then, of course, the range. Now, if I click this little box, you'll notice my range defaults to maximum range. Worthless. So what I'm going to do is order it to be 50%. Now, some people, of course, are going to sit here going, is it better to just come in here and define this as DLC? It can be. That's not bad. Or no escape zone is the one everybody thinks of. That's fine. The key thing here, though, is this works pretty well, especially for the AMRAAM, especially at the altitudes we're probably going to be engaging things inside of our mission. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm happy about that. Just kind of doing kind of a mental thing. Looks good to me. Looks good to me. Okay, so now we have to do the fun thing. And now we have to define that central waypoint as our position where we're actually going to be traveling to. Patrol area and at all points. Ha ha! Isn't that great? So now I'm going to go come down here and hit repeatable loop, which means my F-15s are going to come here, do power donuts until something comes and says hello. Then they'll engage it and they'll come back and they'll do the best they can not to waste opportunities. So now we're going to go ahead and set the AWACS mission up. Control F11, just like always. Wacky wax. I don't know, we can call it just about anything. Press support, looks good to me, and press the okie doke button. We're going to try to keep one unit on at a time, because we're also going to be using our strato tankers here. So boop, all these extremely expensive targets basically in one spot. I don't need to change any of these things in here. This is going to work fine. Continuous loop is fine. RTB on completion. All those things are fine, but what I do need to do is I need to turn on the radar. One of the problems we could have here is AWACS doesn't do much. A lot of people go, by the way, you come in here and you say the active emissions only when on station. The key reason people like this button a lot is because it's basically going to be designed so that they don't turn the radars on early and give away like the aircraft carrier or something like that. Not critical, not for this particular mission. So we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and unpause, speed up time a little bit. A bunch of F-15s are going to come ripping out. And a couple things happen here. My F-15s, of course, flip on the radar immediately. I handed any of my expensive E3s and stuff like that. They start making their way towards the target region. And we're getting pings and pongs like crazy. I notice immediately we have some targets coming in from this direction. I notice we have some targets coming in from this direction, which is cool, because you'll notice what will happen here is my F-15s now are only going to engage things that violate the safety zone. Meanwhile, of course, as they're kind of flying in, you can actually see whatever group of airplanes this... MiG-21s, eh? Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Because what's going to happen is my F-15s are doing the little power donuts here. It's actually pretty cool because you can use these guys as AWACS now. Because it's just going to go in a constant circle like a radar does. And you could basically use this as a cheap way to use AWACS without actually having AWACS. But what will happen is these guys are going to enter into the don't come in here zone. And the moment they do that, my F-15s are going to panic. Now, one of the things you have to be ultra careful with, and this is one of the downsides that you have to always be mindful of, is because my AWACS didn't get here first, these chaps are attacking this group first. If they attack this group first, of course, we're going to lose all of our AWACS. This is one of those excellent ways to basically prevent this strategy from working. We basically caught them with their pants down because they weren't ready for the engagement yet. So I'm actually going to order them not to do that and go ahead and do a power donut here. That's a new technical term, by the way. And they're going to go chase this group down. The MiG-23s are far more dangerous than MiG-21s here as well. So let's go ahead and see what happens. You can see everybody's getting into position here. My F-15s with their incredible thrust, doing their thing, cranking and dragging. Of course, keep in mind, teammates might do things differently, so always be kind of mindful about that. There they go. And that's why you got to be careful turning away. I'm actually going to change that policy because I did not like the way that worked at all. The crank and drag was much too aggressive. We'll just, or crank if possible. I like that. Cool. We're just going to change this logic a little bit. Hey, we got one. And we got two. We got three. Nice. Good job, everybody. Good job. So now what's going to happen is everybody's going to head back to the AWACS stay here point. You can see them all kind of queuing up right now for that particular duty sort of thing. And they're just going to spin here, and here comes more bad guys. Isn't that fun? It's like a big radar scope just spinning around. So here they come again. Our little enemies are sneaking in. Oh, there's one of them. You'll notice one of the F-15 groups immediately breaks after them. And then, of course, the other F-15 group is going to go chase them down as well. Notice that other F-15 group turned around. And they're rushing very, very rapidly after our MiG-23s. This is the great thing about having F-15s. Oh! Ow! I wish there was a little kill counter on the right. That'd be really amusing to read. One really nice thing we've got going here as well is the fact that we have a nice little air refueling unit. So between battles, if we wanted to get a little kind of whatever you want to call here, we could actually order them to get a quick refuel. And of course, when they refuel, they're just going to run over there, gas up a bit, and they'll have enough time to kind of get ready for the next thing. Keep in mind, they will refuel on their own. We don't actually have to order them to refuel. All right, here they go again. Whee! Whee! Notice they change guards. Whee! Whee! This is what they call a very busy day for F-15 kind. Oh, but how many of these things are going to launch at us? I'm enjoying the sound effects. What the heck? How many of these things do they have? Oh, here comes some more. Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is. I feel like this goes on for a while. Come get some. We win. All right, let's see how that went. And as you can see very clearly, it's a perfectly valid strategy. So let's say they lost 48 airplanes and 0. We lost 0 airplanes. So it shows you just how effective this strategy is. Some people make this area smaller, but that gets dangerous if you start dealing with enemies with long-range missiles. Some people will actually break this into 2 zones, like a north zone and a south zone. That's fine. That works perfectly good. You can see, let's see here, 48 divided by 64. Our AIM-120s, by the way, had a 75% kill rate, which is fantastic. Also notice, by the way, we did discharge a few of these AIM-9s because of the guys who got a little too close. So as you can see, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of kind of playing with the missions, and we can protect those high-value targets very efficiently. Enjoy.